These expanses in Western Canada are home to the Blackfoot. Traditionally, they were hunters, skilled horse riders, and feared warriors. Even though white settlers saw them only as savages.
They think of us as fairy tales, but they need to know that we're still here.
Most Indigenous peoples in Canada call themselves First Nations. Despite European colonization, their cultures have survived.
Reconnecting with my culture, being proud to be Blackfoot, saved my life.
This is Alberta in Western Canada. Many parts of the province are still as unspoiled as they were when First Nations people lived here undisturbed. Alberta includes part of the traditional tribal territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, a group of 4 closely related First Nations. The area is home to the Canadian Badlands, with their unique geological formations, columns of rock known as hoodoos. There's also Dinosaur Provincial Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Further along what's known as the Dinosaur Trail is Horse Thief Canyon. As recently as the early 20th century, smugglers used the canyon to hide stolen horses that were traded between the US and Canada. Further south in the traditional Blackfoot territory is the picturesque Waterton Lakes National Park, near the border with the US state of Montana. Horses have been an important part of Blackfoot culture for more than 300 years. They were hugely important for hunting, traveling between campsites, and warfare. The Blackfoot view horses as an important symbol of wealth and a family's social status. Members of the Indigenous community are famous for their ability to work with feral or traumatized horses. This is the Piikani Reservation near the Montana border. It's where professional horseman Ty Provost keeps his horses. They're thoroughbreds that have come from racing stables around the US and Canada. Ty feels strongly about how the animals should be treated.
When we first take a horse in, we kick him out into the pasture just to allow them to remember how to be a horse. Some of them don't even know how to eat grass off the ground because they've been in a stall and grain-fed and barn-fed their whole life. They're a horse. They're not a piece of machinery that's being used and then put away until it's used again.
Former racehorse Gypsy has been here for 2 months, but he still hasn't settled in.
This horse just came off the track about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. You'll notice the difference between him and the rest of them. He still has a lot of that anxiety and kind of high-stressed demeanor about himself. Oh, Gypsy came from Saskatchewan. He's a young horse, he's only 4.
Gypsy isn't easy to control. The racing stable he came from didn't want him because he refused to go into the starting gates at races. Ty wants to put a halter on him. He uses a second horse to try to calm Gypsy down while guiding him in the right direction.
You know, there's a lot of drugs these trainers use to make their horse run fast. When we get a lot of these horses off the track, it's almost like they're having withdrawals. You have to get all that toxic stuff out of their system before you can start training them for the sport of relay.
Back in the shelter, Gypsy bangs his head violently. It's a sign of the enormous stress the horse is feeling.
Oh. 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 Oh.
Ty does his best to calm Gypsy down.
Oh. Easy, boy. Oh. Oh. Easy, Gypsy. Oh, no. Oh, boy. Oh, Gypsy. Oh, no. Easy, boy. Easy.
In order to be taken to training, Gypsy has to be loaded into a trailer.
Here, we'll put these two up front.
Jeremy works alongside Ty.
As like a young guy, I always wanted to be around horses. Fell in love with them, and I still am, so. A couple of years ago, I met Ty. He's kind of like my mentor.
This year, Jeremy is due to ride in his first race on Gypsy. They head to a nearby race course to train. The territory of the Blackfoot is said to have exceeded over 160,000 square kilometers, although accounts differ. Under pressure from white settlers, they signed a treaty with the British Crown in 1877. Today, there's consensus that those involved did not believe they were giving up the rights to their land. The Blackfoot lost most of their territory, except for 3 small reserves. Some towns in Alberta, like Fort Macleod, can feel like settings for a Western movie, but most First Nations people live outside the towns in the surrounding reserves. The Blackfoot's traditional territory is fertile land. Alberta beef has earned a reputation for being tasty and high-quality meat. There are more cattle in the province than people. There are also a lot of wind farms. Pincher Creek, the windiest place in Alberta, lies near a Blackfoot reserve. It has more wind power projects than anywhere else in Canada. Every year, Pincher Creek hosts an agricultural fair. The event celebrates the area's cultural heritage, though not its indigenous heritage. One of the highlights is a carriage race using miniature horses, a popular breed in parts of North America. The drivers take the racing seriously, even though there are no prizes. Veteran rancher Harvey Dersch has bred horses all his life. 150 years ago, his ancestors emigrated from Germany. They built a life here thanks to cheap farmland, which had belonged to the local indigenous people. Life has been good to Harvey. Even after his wife died, he soon found happiness again with Roberta.
I golfed with your wife.
Yeah,
You know,
my wife and her were
and I taught
fairly good
school
friends.
with his daughter. So we didn't
knew each other. And
just-
we both lost our partners within a couple months
Within
of
a
each
year.
other. Yeah, within a year. And then we just kind of got together.
It's worked out.
I've been here for 85 years. It's kind of the only life I know, ranching. Well, I grew up right next to the Indian Reserve, and some of my best friends are natives. Some of the best neighbors we have, that's who they are. In fact, I've got about 3 different ones. If I was to phone them and say I needed a hand tomorrow morning, they'd be right here to help me. That's more than I can say about a lot of white neighbors.
The Blackfoot see the earth as a living being with a soul and a voice. It speaks through the rain, wind, thunder, and even through earthquakes. Spirits also play an important role. There are specific places where Blackfoot people can make contact with them. One of these places is called Writing on Stone near the Montana border. Beginning over 2,000 years ago, the Blackfoot left rock art on the sandstone cliffs and hoodoos here. Okotoks is the Blackfoot name for Big Rock, a huge boulder in the middle of the prairie. It was pushed here by a glacier from the Rocky Mountains. The Blackfoot held many of their spiritual ceremonies here. In the 19th century, though, the Canadian government banned the practice. Calgary is Alberta's largest city. Because there are few jobs on the reserves, many Blackfoot have moved here. Like most Canadians, they live in the sprawling suburbs that surround the urban center. In his youth, Kyle Young-Pine had problems with alcohol. He's now been sober for 10 years, and he's made a new life for himself, working as a plumber.
Let's get this out of here. Growing up, I wasn't proud to feel Indigenous because I just felt the racism as a kid. Words are powerful.
But since then, things have changed.
Oh, you broke your window.
Someone like Phoenix, he's 8 years old and he's speaking the language, he's dancing, he's being a part of ceremony. I never had that growing up, and to be able to share this life with him, I'm excited to see what happens.
Oh! Yeah! Was that good?
Yeah.
Kinda, not really. It was okay. Give my handshake.
Kyle's friend Ryan Smith is a professional skateboarder. With Kyle, he's experiencing more and more of Blackfoot culture.
I helped take down a teepee the other day, and then I was like asking about how they make the
Sundance?
the poles, and went to Sundance, and I was in a sweat lodge. I actually slept in a teepee, and a real one, you know, and I was like, it was cool.
10 years ago is when I started dancing fancy. There was nothing that was going to stop me from embracing this life. Reconnecting with my culture, being proud to be Blackfoot, saved my life.
For a long time, the white population thought of the Blackfoot as savages. There were school programs designed to cut Indigenous children off from their own culture. Such policies go back as far as John Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister. He's considered the architect of plans designed to eradicate Indigenous culture. During his time in office, boarding schools were set up to assimilate Indigenous children. The children were simply taken away from their parents by order of the government. Isolated from their families, they were no longer allowed to speak their own languages. 3/4 of the schools were run by the church on behalf of the state. An estimated 150,000 children attended them. The last one operated until the 1990s. It's thought that around 6,000 children died in the schools from malnutrition, abuse, neglect, and disease. In most cases, parents were not informed when their daughters or sons died, and there were no proper burials. In recent years, the discovery of 1,300 unmarked graves near former boarding schools caused a shockwave in Canada. It brought the topic of how white people have treated the Indigenous population into sharp focus. Alongside other compensation, the government recently settled a lawsuit for around 2 billion euros, acknowledging the loss of Indigenous language and culture caused by residential schools. The St. Joseph's School was one of the first Catholic boarding schools in Canada. Today, it's a reminder of how Indigenous culture has been erased. Unmarked graves have also been found here. The Canadian state has officially apologized for the suffering it inflicted on Indigenous people. The Old Sun Residential School operated until 1971. It was known for its disciplinary methods. This was where Elroy Jerry spent his childhood. Far away from his parents, he strongly resisted the abusive teachers and nuns.
I would have been 9, 10 years old. So me and another guy, we would protect the other kids. By the time I was in 4th grade, boy, I was a good fighter. You know, no kid should be a good fighter. So our parents went through alcoholism and all over, and they didn't know how to nurture, just because they weren't allowed to. I don't know what to say about residential school.
Just a few kilometers from the school, white bison have been born. White bison are extremely rare, the result of around 1 in 10 million births. The Blackfoot consider them to be a blessing and to have healing powers. Elroy Jerry is among the many visitors who come here to see the animals. He hopes that being close to them will heal his soul. Bison breeder Carlin Big Snake shows Elroy his bull.
His name's Tomahawk. They were almost extinct, and now they're coming back. People heard about it. First Nations across Canada actually came out here. It was a blessing for them. They call them, the spirit animal. I guess it allows people that, there is hope.
Like Elroy, Carlin Big Snake is a survivor of the residential schools.
What? That's what I'll feed you. What?
He hopes that the spiritual power of his white bison will have a positive effect on the reconciliation between Indigenous and white people. Tomahawk seems to have made a connection with Elroy. Gypsy has arrived at the Kainai Nation racetrack. The horse seems to have handled the journey well. Ty and his team get ready for practice, examining their animals. It's important to know how the horses are doing, including mentally. That's where Jason comes in. He's a kind of psychological coach.
Fix your hair, my boy. Make you all comfortable. We'll have a good run, eh? Yes, we will.
The Indian relay race is part of Blackfoot culture. It's thought to have several historical origins. Traditionally, the Blackfoot had to ride fast horses in order to hunt bison or catch mustangs.
I like that bit.
Ready?
The modern competition is about being the fastest over 3 rounds. After each round, the rider changes horse. It's Ty's favorite discipline.
Right on, boys.
Gypsy is due to start in the Chiefs race. But it seems he's less interested in racing than he is in digging holes with his hooves.
So did you guys decide who?
After a quick consultation with Ty, the team decides that Cody, one of the most experienced riders, will take Gypsy for a spin.
Check that, yeah, just make sure it's tight, or, because that's first time.
Yeah. I don't know what to expect. This guy's that 4-year-old, eh?
Yeah.
It's the baby.
Look, you got him. You got him, bro.
Come on.
Oh.
You're all right. You're all right. Maybe today use the saddle, eh?
There's that saddle in the truck.
Good.
So grab it. Easy.
They hope the saddle will help calm Gypsy down.
You're all right, Gypsy. No stressed. Not gonna run you hard. None of that. Just breeze around the track. All right, Gypsy.
Come on. Come on.
Let's go, Gypsy.
Come on, Gypsy.
So. Oh. Easy, Gypsy. Easy, easy, easy. You all right?
Yep.
Fortunately, Cody wasn't injured. A few minutes later, Ty tries to ride Gypsy. And succeeds.
Wait, see what he does. There you go. He should be good.
After 2 hours, training is over. Afterwards, the horses are given a shower and a gentle walk. This helps to lower their heart rate.
Have a bad experience and like it sticks with them, eh? Gypsy's not ready. Throw him in a Chiefs race, if anything, but... So that was a good call. Put him back on the track.
It's always good to end it off on a good note.
Yeah.
I will work with him. He's still a young one. He'll be solid by next year.
Once, 30 million bison grazed on the prairie. But after the arrival of European settlers, their numbers declined almost to extinction. At the end of the 19th century, there were only a few hundred of the animals left. Now the population is slowly recovering. The return of the bison is considered a big success in species conservation. This is a filling station on the reserve. It doesn't offer gas for cars, but water for pastures. Looking after 300 bison requires quite a few leaders. Dan Fox and his 12-year-old grandson Asher keep one of the few bison herds in Alberta. Dan hopes that the return of the bison will help to revive the millennia-old Blackfoot culture. The bison have always given the Blackfoot everything they need to survive. Bones for tools, tendons used for sewing, meat, leather, and hide.
She's coming over, can you see? And we try to reteach it to the young ones, what this animal meant to the tribe years ago, and let them know that this is a healthy way of life. For our traditional harvests, we get some old ladies that come out and they teach the young women how and what to use for ceremony. For example, they use the heart, they use the tongue, they use the blood. People here are feeling that all that stuff that had happened, the colonizations and residential school. So they're seeking the good energy that comes from our native culture. You know, these non-native religions, there used to be just full back in the 60s and 70s. They would have hundreds of people at the church. But now you just see a handful of people there, and there's hundreds of people at the Sundance camp. I'm very proud to see that happen, and I raise buffalo so that my grandson can, you know, carry on those, you know, those traditional ways.
You feel proud that you're helping run a ranch like this.
People on the reserves tend to live far apart from one another. Many love the solitude. But there are also problems. A lack of employment leads to poverty, as well as drug and alcohol abuse and crime. Right now, preparations are underway for the Sundance, the event of the year.
And he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know it'd be like
Rose and her neighbors are preparing food for the ceremony. She takes care to pass on the traditions to her daughter. The women are making bison tongue and roasted bison fat.
You're getting your hair done so pretty. I gotta get his hair braided. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna put this in. No. What?
It's a big day for Rose. The Sundance officially begins today. Her grandfather was a highly respected Blackfoot spiritual leader. He led numerous ceremonies.
I was raised by my grandparents, so I grew up traditional. For me, as a Nisitabi woman, a Blackfoot woman, it's very important that my children know where they come from and have an idea and an understanding of their history and their heritage. All of the things that Native people have faced. It's amazing that we even still have a culture to practice nowadays.
For the Sundance, a teepee has to be set up, and Luke Calling Bull helps out. Living according to Blackfoot traditions is very important to him.
This style that I do it's a Blackfoot style.
That includes his appearance. The men treat their hair in a particular way using bison tallow.
Where we cut our bangs, we make it stand and it sticks up like that. We never used to part our hair. Whereas you see other tribes, like the Sioux, their hair is parted. We never did that. This was our style, and this is what I'm trying to bring back to my people. Not a lot of young people my age really got into ceremony, so the old people back then really assumed that this was just going to die out. But now it's back. These two are longer.
There are a few hiccups while they're setting up the teepee. It's been borrowed from another indigenous community, and it functions differently from what they're used to.
Have to pull those back.
Okay.
This teepee that you see here was made either Crow or Cree. It wasn't made like a Blackfoot style, because then it would lean on one side. And none of us here know how to do Cree or Crow.
Okay, which one? Okay.
Straight down the middle, right there.
In the end, though, they get it set up.
It's a huge responsibility, but it's a huge honor in our community for our people to carry on this way of life because we almost lost it. our culture wasn't really allowed to be practiced. I was raised by residential school survivors. How can you have hope for the future when your children are being taken away from you and your children are the future? For me, it's special to have my children here. Someday they're going to be the leaders.
Oh, thank you so much.
Each ceremony begins with smudging, exposing the body to the smoke of sweet grass to cleanse oneself of negative energies. But the rest of the Sundance ritual remains private. Non-Indigenous people are believed to drive away the spirits.
This is like the actual.
Kyle took part in a Sundance just 3 weeks ago.
You have your keys?
Oh, I'll go back in.
Now, he's heading off to Standoff with his friend Ryan for the annual powwow. The powwow is a large gathering of First Nations people who come together to celebrate their Indigenous culture. For Kyle, the Sundance is an important ritual. Despite how demanding and painful the ceremony is, he's committed to taking part in it for 4 years. On the way, they pass the Sun Lodge, where Kyle's Sundance took place 3 weeks ago. These specially built huts have become a rare sight. The participants gather here for the duration of the Sundance. For the Blackfoot, the sun is the highest divine power. It's seen as the giver of life, both for individuals and for the world. The ceremony involves dancing around a decorated tree. The participants fast, pray, and dance for 4 days. It's extremely physically demanding. Some dancers also put wooden skewers through their skin at the end of the ceremony, becoming one with the tree in an act of devotion. The suffering is endured for the good of their community. This is their culture.
So this will be covered. This will be covered during the Sundance, the back door. You won't be able to get through here. And this is where we are for our 4 days. You know, everything's green and all the reach poles have these color materials from the top all the way to the bottom. We're honoring what the sun gives us, giving away a piece of yourself to something greater than yourself. You're supposed to dance for 4 years. You make a 4-year oath. Everything 4 seasons, 4 directions, 4 songs, 4 rounds. 4 days of Sundance, 4 days of fast. So you're fasting and almost getting closer to the spirit world. I was at that point in time in my life where I didn't have anything. I see people that are struggling in addiction. I see my people struggling in addiction. If this is a way to help them, then I'm gonna do it. I had a lot of fear going into it because I remember my first year, it was really painful. Pain is temporary. And if you focus on that pain in the moment, you're missing out on what's actually in front of you, you know? The actual beauty that's taking place of you being the closest you'll ever be to Creator. Other cultures have their ways of reconnecting to the spirit world. This is our way. Powwow's fun, but ceremony is life.
At the Blackfoot Nation ceremony ground, teams are preparing for the Indian relay race. Each riding stable has its own colors and logos, which are displayed on the horses.
Oh, Gypsy, just stand, boy. Just stand. Just stand. Just stand.
Gypsy is supposed to run in the Chiefs race.
Just trying to keep myself calm. Trying to keep him calm. when he feels that I get frustrated or excited or whatever, he picks up on it. He's super sensitive like that. He's already a very high anxious horse. So, just trying to keep us both calm.
Jeremy also needs to focus on staying calm. He'll be riding Gypsy in the race, and it's not going to be easy. For both horse and rider, it's a baptism of fire. After the start, the rest of the horses pull ahead. Gypsy and Jeremy do their best to catch up.
They're off and running. It looks like a 5-horse field here for the Chiefs. As they go around into that corner, into the back turn.
But the lead is too big. Still, at least Gypsy makes it to the end.
Had a little bit of a hiccup at the start there, but then eventually he got him going around. And he's just one of those horses where he might not ever come out of it. We just have to find a way to work through it as best we can. He finished the race, so he had a good day.
The teams then prepare for the next race. It's stressful for the horses and their riders. Animal and human have to trust each other. Even for pros, it's a high-pressure environment.
And leading up to the race, it's just that anxiety gets higher. I try to just block all that out and just be calm. I just worry about me and my horse and just being in that moment.
Flag is up and here we go. And they're off and running.
The race begins. The riders have to ride bareback over a lap of 1.5 kilometers, as fast as they can. The changeover is the most dangerous time. Jumping off at full gallop, reaching the next horse in a few strides, and then continuing. After 3 rounds, there's a winner. There's a lot at stake for Ty and his team. Ultimately, it's all about the money. Even if the indigenous horsemen treat their animals differently, the competition here is still a tough business. The races can come with prize money in the order of tens of thousands of dollars. It's income that Ty depends on, especially because he has to pay for horses, riders, grooming, and everything else. Crossing the finish line first is hugely important.
First, Thunder being second.
If you're not coming in first, it's always not good. But it's part of the game, you know. To me, it doesn't matter if you're first or last. If we leave race day, all the horses are healthy, nobody's hurt, you know, to me that's a good day. And you feel like you really accomplished something. Or you're able to be proud of who you are and where you come from.
The next day, the powwow was held in Standoff. It brings together numerous First Nations communities. An impressive show of indigenous cultures. Like the Sundance, the powwow was once banned. Now, people from all over Alberta come together to celebrate their music, dance, and other traditions.
The feathers that we have, the ones on top of our head, we call them rockers. And no matter how fast that drum's going, this has to be in sync with that drum. There's a certain way you need to dance this style, and I always try to respect and honor the pioneers of this style.
You ready for this? It's not a contest though, right? It's just an exhibition?
I'm not contesting. I dance because I like to dance and not because of money. See, my attitude comes up alive at powwow. Being here kind of shook me. 10 years as a fancy dancer, 10 years sober this year. I have this life that I never thought was possible. It's a rough road, but it's worth it.
Welcome to Double Muscle, the Showstoppers, the Fast and Furious.
More dancers are taking part in the powwow than ever before, and many of the participants are young people. They're proud of their ancestors' heritage, proud to be Indigenous. Despite the challenges, the Blackfoot are making sure that their centuries-old traditions become part of modern life in Canada.